Okay, let's start with public comment. Oh, hey, Peter. Oh. Hayden's joining. We have
Okay.
Kevin and Peter
Okay.
online.
Thank you.
Can you hear us, Peter?
How are you?
Good, how about you?
Good.
Good. All right, anybody who'd like to speak from the public? Anybody? You like to?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
maybe just share what you had sent me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, my name is Barry Millstone. I live, I'm on Whitney Hill, right at Crossroad. So essentially I'm, 2 minutes from the trailhead. So, seemed to make sense that I'd be here because it's right there. So I did a couple, I guess over the weekend, I just snowshoed out and we were out there in the spring. And then with the snowshoe, I took a camera and took some photos. So I really don't know kind of how we manage the trail or what we do to the trails, but we noticed some things about the trail. So let's see. So these are all from the south end of the trail. What we did notice about just about 1/10 of a mile, a few places are at both ends, there's some logs across the trail, those can be moved. There's some fallen branches, just basic maintenance. But about 1/10 of a mile from the trailhead, there's an area that we noticed in the summer, I guess, is about 100 feet long and it's pretty brushy.
Are you talking about like right where the two trees are when you're like going through that big brushy?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and it looks like, there's kind of a way around it, but, ideally, that brush would be there, and I'm guessing it grows pretty quickly, so it would need pretty regular maintenance. And then, there are 2 water crossings, so there's one at about 1/4 of a mile, and one about another 1/10 of a mile. And then the first one looked like there's about 25 feet that's kind of just wet and marshy.
This is the same spot, isn't it?
That's probably.
Did you have photos without the snow?
Yeah.
I haven't been back there in
This is
like
good to
two years, so maybe 2 summers ago, but
Uh-huh.
it gets very,
Yeah.
Yeah,
very wet
And
back
this is a
there.
very dry time.
right.
Yeah.
So it looked like, are crossings an option?
That's what I would.
Yeah, so with this first one, it looked like a little bit of some grading, some fill at one end over the marshy area, maybe a drain. And then that leaves you with about 25-foot crossing.
Mhm.
And at that one, it's, there's not much elevation change. And then the one that's at about 3/10 of a mile, it's a more incised brook. It's about 10 feet wide and there's maybe 4 feet of relief. So the water probably doesn't get that high. And
Is that at the lowest point of the Crossroad Trail?
I think you have the photos of the lowest point.
Yeah, I think it's the same spot.
Yeah, it's.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
Where it's really wet, it literally looks like the river splits
Yeah.
there, yeah.
And this is looking up that ravine, the old.
right, yeah. So, yeah, this one and then this is, I guess this is the other end. Like here's the old road bed.
Mhm.
So, and it seems like if it can be that where the trail goes now adjacent to it is the logical place for the trail, so signage.
Mhm.
Trying to find a way to show it off. Get it to my computer.
What were these? Great.
This would have been the fall, post leaves, yeah. But that's looking up.
Well, it's very, on your side, it is for years been very thick to get in there for a lot of different reasons. And on the other side, if you make it to the other side, it's just a ton of down trees. Like you can't really on foot, regardless of anything else, easily get through there.
So unless there was much under the snow, it looked not too bad.
All the way across?
All the way across.
Okay, all right,
yeah.
that's good. Like even up the steep, or like when you walk up behind that, the horse farm?
Yeah, so I just
Okay.
got to the sign, so I was about, I don't know, tenth
Okay.
of a mile from Monarch Hill, I mean, from Monarch, I didn't
Yeah.
get all the way.
Mhm.
But yeah, they're just one, right, I think property line or what used to be a property line, so there's logs there that can be moved and then similar at the other
All
end.
right,
but
great. So better shape. than
Otherwise,
us.
it was
That's
pretty
great.
clear sailing,
That's awesome.
half a day in a chainsaw. And
Yeah.
Great, thank you,
Now,
Barry.
is that that's a class 3 wetland at the low spot, right? I mean, that is a wetland area, so filling and all of that would be an issue in the wetland. The other thing I'm curious about is, those that are familiar with the area there, there are a number of alternative routes that have been used. One that goes considerably far north. And I know once you get up to Deb Mullins and most people use it to the north of what is the actual right of way. So I'm curious in terms of the delineation of that right of way and where people are actually passing, if they're actually passing within the right of way or to the north of it.
Yeah, Deb had mentioned that I guess there was an area that was difficult to get through, and she said people had been going through her property. And
Right.
my takeaway is that was not in the easement.
Right. So my point being that a lot of folks using that trail may not in fact be on the trail.
Well,
In large part
Yeah.
because the trail hasn't been maintained.
Yes.
my understanding, and having talked to Deb about this, coming from the Monarch side and along, what we would call like her driveway. If you stay far to the left and it is kind of overgrown in there, that is part of the original legal trail, while the more open area that is maintained. And she actually put up some sheets and stuff to let people know that that's actually not, in her view, part of the right of way. So when we had a bike ride through here before a lot of this controversy started, going through that narrow part and then coming back out into the open after that first downhill side below her property, it was pretty clear. And I think you're pointing out where the brook has really hollowed it out.
Right.
I think that is the right of way. And she certainly has had a very valid complaint about users as they go down towards Euclid's, that they're going up on the right on that high bank and using that, and that is clearly outside of the 48 foot. And as far as that left turn, as you start to flatten out, that leads to sort of a jug handle, you go to the left, which I think is what you're saying to the north, Kevin. And then it's around it. We call that Gary's tractor lane.
Right. Yep.
And we did have permission to use that as an alternative, but that anybody thinking that is the legal trail is incorrect over that way.
Any
Yeah.
other public comment out here?
The most interesting part of that little trip was there were snowshoe tracks coming out for the first half, and there were footprints going out on the second half. Couldn't figure it out.
And I did not open it up for skiing
Strap
or snowshoeing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if we did at all. We kind of forgot that.
I would.
And I would say we need to start thinking about closing for money. So,
And it does say trail closed at both ends.
yeah. So for those that are open, we may want to consider it, like our typical spring closing, right?
Mm.
So, All right, any other public comment online or in the room? Okay, well, can we spend 5 minutes on the Drew Forest map? Kevin, you had some questions. I'm gonna share my screen.
While he's doing that, I'm staying at my sister's house, which is right below you.
Okay,
Yes, yeah,
Right.
the one story blue house
Oh,
there. Yeah, that's my
Yeah, yeah,
sister's. So
great.
I usually stay in Spring Road, but I'm there for her bathroom.
so
Right.
correction, there is a lot of tree fall in that drainage.
Yes,
So I was on that high area.
yeah. Yeah, that's where you're like.
Right.
trying
Can
to-
you see it, Kevin?
I can see it. Yes, that looks familiar.
Okay. You needed some.
That's a good sign.
Is it the right forest?
Yeah, it's the right one. Yeah, we're not over at the garage.
You needed some guidance from this group?
I do, I mean, basically, it's just the loop laid down with the property lines, but and the parking at the trailhead, but there were suggestions for other things that would be useful on there, like the foundations, et cetera.
Okay.
I guess my question is this to show the foundations and to show, there's also a comment of like wells and whatnot. Where is this to be seen? I guess is it just like, this map is like where, like, it's not gonna be at the trailhead, right? So
Should be.
it's just, so it will be,
Should be
okay,
on the website. and-
okay,
We're,
okay,
we're working,
Yeah.
we're working towards a map for every
yeah,
available trail.
Okay.
So it's clear,
right.
yeah.
And then that's one of the things that I think is with further conversations about how to
Yeah.
actually get these placed and get cross funding.
Like
and all
last
that.
month or 2 months into last month, we're
Mhm.
talking about whether, if there's no parking, we say there's no parking, right?
Yeah.
So that sort of thing.
The over at the Wikipedia Woods lot there, I actually haven't been up there for a bit, so I don't know what the status is, but there were maps created for a couple of different points along the trail with a "You are here" marker. This one simply has a "You are here," assuming that this would be the map that is at the kiosk in the parking area.
Yeah, those other ones were printed out at an 8.5, 11 size, and it's been, I dropped the ball on getting those printed in a larger format. My hope, the makerspace students at the White River Valley Middle School have offered to do larger format prints of those, and they have a laminator set up. So that has been the hope. So, and I did not get the 8.5 by 11s up on those farther kiosks. Just the one down at the entrance.
Right. So that I don't know if there is a plan for any signage along the trail in the Drew Forest, or just something at the beginning of the trail. But it certainly is open for any suggestion, for any points of interest that might be useful on the map.
So are these cultural features, the wells, foundations, et cetera, are they right along the trail, or are they a hike off of the trail? And are they, do we want to encourage people to go see them, or discourage people?
Exactly.
That's a good point.
I think we wanted to encourage the foundation. Right, it's a nice spot to stop. We have to figure out a way to discourage well sightings. Especially from inside them.
So I'm not sure what the rules are in Vermont, but in a lot of places, And I think it's generally considered a good practice that abandoned wells should be filled in. And it's both for safety, but it's also to protect the water table, to prevent surface contamination into the water table. So that may be something to give some thought to.
The challenge is those who have water rights.
Mm.
We'd have to work through that in town.
Oh, is it an active well?
There's one I know of.
There's just one that's active, but there are existing water rights on some of the others.
I see. Okay.
Could be. Any other comments on that? I think, Kevin, I think we can work this out outside the meeting, right, with some of those details.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have to get together with Brenda and others and we'll put some good stuff there.
Great.
I just want to say another thing about the printing aspect of all this. Has anybody tried asking the law school, because they have some larger format printers as well, but they might be willing for us to access, so I can try to hassle.
Yeah, on the Wikipedia, we need 1, 2, 3, 4,
Okay,
and then we don't have the same budget for Drew, but we could try to find a way to get 4 up there. And
could I have you email that to me so I have it in writing, and then I can try to see if I can work on that, and maybe some cross-funding with the conservation committee to also have some signage up, so I'll work on that.
I will say that there were some community ties and education stuff
Mhm.
that were in consideration for having the schools do it.
Oh, okay, great. That's good point.
It's not the end of the world, and we'll need to see if it can happen
Mhm.
in a timely manner.
Right.
shall we move on to our guest speaker or our guest visitor from it's Upper Valley Trails Alliance?
Yeah.
You can introduce yourself. And
Yeah, I'm
take-
Sean. I'm the Trail Programs Director at the Upper Valley Trails Alliance, whose office is in Norwich. However, I live in Tunbridge here on Yale Road. I guess you can let me know exactly what you're looking for, but 2, 3, 4 months before the snow flew, I looked at 2 trails just to give my thoughts as to what might, bring them back to get some maintenance, what I would recommend. The Crossroad and the Orchard Road Trail from the Moody side.
Mhm.
So I guess since we were already talking about Crossroad, I walked that one, and had some of the same thoughts. I had the same concerns, particularly about the roadbed that is gullied out is the actual right of way of the town, correct? And from what I understood, people would like that to be the trail to remain in that area rather than to go to this, as you mentioned, up on the bank where people are clearly going. My recommendation would be you could put tread back into that and pull the trail off of where it's not supposed to go. So you could build a little trail through there. And that would hopefully keep people off of that side, particularly if you threw some brush and, actually close that if that's what the landowner desired. And then work a little bit on the drainage. And we talked about this a bit. You could go really heavy and actually re-channelize the whole thing, but that's going to get into more permitting and it's just a much bigger project. But if it's okay, you could probably just put a smaller corridor in there that's good is biking allowed? Whatever the current uses are. So you could do that, just a smaller tread and essentially put it on it's on this picture, but the side of that old roadbed that is closest to where people are going up on the bank.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just about permitting and it being the town of Tunbridge and no permitting ever being necessary for anything, it seems.
Oh.
Would we actually need permitting to fix these things?
Well,
Because
statewide, I think is what.
is that?
Yeah, there's a
state?
certain
Okay.
threshold, and if you're actually going in there and re-channelizing,
Okay.
basically like redigging up the road, probably, but you
Okay.
could do an intermediate fix. That's sort of
Got
a
it.
very large project. It's more soil displacement than anything. I think.
Okay. Cool.
So basically rebuild, I think I have the footage in there, it's like 1,500 feet or something, essentially tread it, which is to make a bench cut is what it's called, into that hillside and create a nice trail for people to walk on and just close off that side that's not supposed to be used. And then below, you could do a little bit of drainage work in here and then create a nice crossing, and with kind of two small footbridges get across that. And that should put that half of the trail in pretty good shape. And really the other side is really just defining it and brushing it out and really saying where the trail goes. Yeah.
So, and volunteer work aside, you have a sense of budget?
Yeah, so, you know, these, I probably need to look at it again now that, you know, it's the spring again and assess. It's a good time to look at it about really right now, but you wouldn't want to go back there on the dirt roads, of course, but to see when the most water is flowing and what the amount is. That you could do with hand in, you know, I don't know, I'd have to look at it again, 3 to 5 days, probably with a volunteer crew, I think. So I think I'd put, at least for us, we do high school trail corps is one of our programs, which is 500 a day, and that's a full day with 13 of us. And then volunteers can come in too, like anyone from the community.
That's cool.
And you dig that out by hand. That wouldn't be with any machinery, it'd just be all hand tools. So 3 days of that, maybe, depending on what, if you also wanted to put a bridge in and really what the full scope of it was. So those are 500 a day. You know, I'd have to really look at it again to get the exact amount for that lower, you know, the handwork and a bridge, you know, 3 days, 5 days, you know, 15 to 2,500.
So I was just thinking about you talking about this high school program, that it could be interesting to work with Eliza Minucci and her outdoor programs with the middle school. Because maybe there's an opportunity there to also, I mean, if there's high school kids there, the middle school kids are gonna want to be there, and there could be like a larger body of people to learn, and it could be something that it could
Yeah.
educational thing for.
And the way you
too.
complete the work varies a lot. You can go even just, you know, me out there for 1 day with a bunch of volunteers for the public and, you know, show kind of what I think we should do, and people can go in there and do it at will if that's permitted, that sort of thing. Yeah, for us to do it all together, probably, or all with our, you know, labor and crews, say, you know, 3 days on the low end and 5 days, so 15 to 2,500. That's without materials. The bridge is not that expensive. $500 is the bridge material.
And would that include permitting costs?
I don't think that would need any permitting. That's just handwork to, you know, essentially flatten out something that's already there. I don't think, we could check again, but I can't imagine it would trigger it. It's already the roadbed. That's more if you were to channelize that whole drainage, and that would be really just remaking the road. That would probably require some, but I don't think that would require permitting, hopefully. Just the handwork.
I thought I had remembered in our conversations about over on Orchard that, you know, X number of, and maybe Rudy, you can help refresh me on this one as far as, you know, X number of feet, you know, triggering, you know, permitting.
250 cubic feet in a wetland. The district wetland ecologist walked the crossroad with us, Julie Follensby. And there are some different rules on a constructed feature, which the crossroad is. Her recommendation at the time, she thought that road generally looked pretty good and suggested that a ford would maybe a way to address that. Pat Ross, who was the stream alt engineer at the time, agreed with that, but he's no longer the stream alt engineer. And so he did not sign off on that. So there's a new stream alt engineer that I assume if we were to do a ford there would need to be approached about that. But
Okay.
Julie at the time thought it did not require permits other than that one low spot crossing.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rudy.
Any other questions from Trails Committee for the
course, yeah.
crossroad? Anybody from the committee first? All right, public?
I haven't been up there for a long time, but at the end, crossroad and not Dead One's End, but the other end, there's a barn structure that goes over the trail.
Yeah,
I was
in the
just
picture.
curious.
I know less about that side, you might know more about
Just-
it, yeah,
Putting it out,
yeah.
um,
As to where the line, I was more looking like, what would you really need to build and what would take a lot of work? That was more designating where it actually went, which I wasn't.
I've always, it is a little unclear.
Yeah.
Because it's been so long since people have really
Right,
been
yeah, yeah.
using it as to where you go. Especially in the middle of summer, it's like, it's a little confusing and
you
there's like
go
this,
under.
yeah, it is,
If it
yeah,
was
that's what
mowed,
it is.
I'm asking.
If it was
Yeah.
mowed, it'd be a
You
little
know,
Yeah, if it was, it would
just
be
want
easier.
have to-
And the trail signage is
It's falling down.
under that building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
I've-
just like, but people are like,
I've
it's like
looked
people
there.
can scoot around, it is something
Yeah,
to
yeah.
talk about.
And that would be part of it too. You could redesignate, you could blaze if that's what's desired, or sort of
Yeah.
like really define it, because you can do the brushing at the same time
Yeah.
with the crew.
Yeah.
Really, it's hard to get everybody on a bridge at the same time anyway.
Euclid said it goes under it.
Yep, I was gonna agree with that. And Euclid gave me permission, although I guess, well, anyway, we actually did cut the grass down when there was an event there, so it was very clear where you were supposed to go as you came up from the other side. Yeah.
The trail goes, yeah, it goes right under the high drive there at the Euclid and Priscilla property.
Yeah,
Another-
so I can write up another
Yeah.
sort of just, honed. A set estimate of what exactly that would cost and what it would look like, some better maps. And,
Yeah,
that's
and we'll
what-
post it on the
sounds
site.
good.
And you walk one more trail.
Yeah, so there was the Orchard Road, but from the Moody roadside. I was asked to look at really the crossings there. And it was 3 bridges. It depends on, what you want to bridge. There's kind of another drainage spot up around the corner when it's headed to go around. The last one is more at a dip. It probably doesn't need much of anything, so you can kind of ignore that one. But there's 2 crossings that you could put a bridge to one side, because someone mentioned the need to go through in a tractor potentially. And that would, the style we use, there's a little picture in here, it's just a little hemlock bridge that
Mhm.
sits on the ground, it's not actually put into the ground. And, it's fastened to basically a 6x6 that's placed on the ground, you don't actually displace really much of anything except for leveling it. And then you can cable it to a tree or not, they kind of just, if it floods, they just move to the side, which it's high enough, I didn't think they would there. And I think it's the second crossing is, it's very wet there, there's a lot of drainage issues, but I think what would work the best is you could just do a little bit of the drainage and push the flow of the water either above or below, if you're looking, north, I think. You could either, make the drain go above the trail and there's another stream that comes around. Cause there's, I think, another old roadbed there, you know what I'm talking about, if people know this
Mhm.
trail. And that one, I wasn't as sure if you wanted to remain where the trail currently is, or what is clearly the old roadbed. You could do either, that one would take a lot more work, it's a lot more sort of washed out. But either way, below that, you put the bridge, I think it's a 20-foot bridge there. To the right, still get by, and then do some drainage on that side, and that area, that 50 feet or so there would dry out. And then you could get that one walkable and crossable more easily.
Now with that, cause horses go there too, so a bridge,
Okay, if that's a consideration. Can they get through, they need a bridge that can hold horses, is that a consideration?
well, that would be great.
Yeah.
A bridge that could hold a horse,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, all right, well,
Yeah.
that would be a bigger, project, you could still do it, it would just be the bridge would be wider and more
Mhm.
expensive.
Yeah, I
Do they have
think
issues
it's
going
more, so
through?
there's recreational horses
Yeah.
and that property has been logged with horses.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I think the discussion was that a bridge was not necessarily a great solution, particularly with logging operations.
Okay,
Mhm.
so.
So
no-
I think
no
the
bridge.
discussion more had been a small bridge to one side
Right,
that
right.
allows
Yeah, that was
the
my-
bulk of the trail to remain open because it gets used both for tractors and
Okay.
all three, recreational horseback and logging.
Yeah, and the horses can use the current, they walk through the stream down over, yeah. That's what I was thinking, is just a narrow bridge on the
Mhm.
side where
Mhm.
really the throughway is essentially what it is
So
now.
essentially just a safer footpath.
Yeah, it's something that you don't have to walk through the stream
Yeah.
and climb down that, it's not deep, but it's still, walking through the water.
Water, yeah.
And it really wouldn't, it wouldn't be very impactful. They're narrow. You can make them as wide as you want, but usually we make them about 4 feet wide. A little wider than this table. And so there'd be 2 of those and then the drainage by the middle crossing essentially. Which hopefully would get rid of that wetness.
And rough budget for that.
That one, it depends on how many of the bridges you do. Basically 1 day per bridge, same cost, 500 a day is like a way to think about it. So the labor for a bridge is 500 and then the materials for the bridge. Yeah, and then the drainage you would do at the same time as a bridge or, replace it for that. You could build a bridge and do the drainage in 1 day at the same time.
So someone newer to this committee, how do these things get funded?
The Trails Committee currently has money from the Ranger,
Right?
Oh, yeah.
but it's not a lot.
Yeah,
It's like $500.
okay,
We can't have money, but
right,
the town, it was given for trail work.
right.
So when if you notice in the town report,
Mhm,
you'll see my name
mhm.
in there and I'm surprised it didn't get brought up. I'm joking. We paid for trail signs on the Whippy Woods. And then I get reimbursed, so I had to get that approved by the select board.
Got it, okay,
And then any signs that are on the trails right now were approved by the select board. So any of this, we would need, there's a form
right,
to be filled out that would need to be approved by the select board.
okay, cool.
And
And we thought we'd open up this meeting for the discussion rather than jump into the select board right away.
Smart,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Other questions for this trail? From the public?
in the public, yep. So clarification, Sean, so
Yeah.
coming from the Moody side, going to the wider crossing, that bridge, do you foresee that as being to the left or to the right?
I thought it would be to the right,
To the right.
but I was only there for, half hour.
And is that based on where you expect the drainage should go?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, but, I think probably either one could work, but I felt like you could fit it, and this is just a fuzzy picture in my mind, I was even looking for a picture a second ago. That it wouldn't interfere as much with the tractor and horse lane as much.
okay.
I'd have to look at the drainage again to see whether it would cross higher or lower. It would be ideal if it went to if you can imagine, if you're looking, towards, Moody Road's behind you and you're looking in this direction, it would be ideal if the drainage could go to the left, because then you would never have to cross it. It wouldn't actually have to cross the trail. It would spill into the stream over here, so you would
Right.
never have to. interfere.
And that old roadbed that you mentioned is,
Yeah.
as you go up the other side, is off to the left. kind
Yes,
of down
yeah.
in there, so it seems like it would. flow.
And that reroute to the right, out of the roadbed is okay for now? Was that the idea? Okay, yeah.
So then the other comment, I believe there are funds available unless they're being retracted by Washington at the state level. That will apply to not only sort of private recreational trails but to legal trails. And I certainly, people on the committee could look into that.
Yeah,
Yes,
awesome.
probably through Borac. Yeah, you'd want to check them out.
I will just say that, you might need to find somebody other than Mary Ann to do that.
We told her it's a lot of work up front and it never seemed to simmer.
Oh, she
The
did a
cash
Borac
flow.
one before?
It was a recreational trail, RTP grant
Okay.
through Forest Parks and Rec, and
We do a
it
lot.
is a lot of work for
a little bit of money.
Meager return.
Mhm.
And there are reimbursement grants too. So you have to spend the money, you have to have it, spend it first, but you know.
And private funding is also a distinct possibility.
RTP is good for.
And a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got one follow-up question.
Yeah,
So it seems that when you get water running down these trails, you end up getting a lot of siltation downstream, which I think is not good for the waterway. If we focused on fixing the water problems, does that kill two birds with one stone? Does it address the siltation problem, and does it also, by drying up the roadbed, make the roadbed usable rather than having to build bridges?
yes, probably in the long term. In the short term, the work that you displace will, you know, for the section that you dig, that say it's 50 feet, that will be some fresh exposed soil. But you're right, you're preventing it from going through more of an area, and hopefully getting the water out of an area that will have silt. So yes, I don't know if the Orchard Road one would exactly, because it's really just getting it off of the travel way. It would more so on, I think, the crossroad, although you're not really changing the drainage on that one too much either. Yeah. Yeah, but it is causing a lot of silt to come down, to be stuck in the crossroad, those narrow gullies. You know, you're just, so that's why they're gullies. They're bringing that soil downstream over.
Yeah, all that's now downstream.
Exactly, yeah, so you can tell that it is in fact doing that. So ideally, I couldn't see it there because it's a lot of seeps. You'd want to get it all off, but since you're in that very deep trench, there's really no way to do it, because you have 6 feet of material to go through in order to get it off. That would be the number one thing to do, but you just can't do it in those deep gullies.
Can you capture it? Can you run gravel,
To slow it down?
to slow it down?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
do
and there's like
stuff like
straw
that?
wattles and various other things you can do. Yeah, there's certainly ways to mitigate it if that is becoming a problem. That area, it's almost why I wouldn't dig it out yet unless you really wanted to widen that and turn that back into an 8-foot road. Because doing that is gonna create a very narrow channel. Whereas right now it has some deviation within that, you know, roadbed. That roadbed is essentially turning into a stream.
Learning else?
And just to point out that being one who lives on a roadbed, which is a stream, that is not uncommon. And, you know, attempts to manage those over the years. I mean, it's just an ongoing, you know, it's just the way that the roads were originally laid out. The stream bed and the roadbed are pretty much the same.
You almost have to line it with stone, you know, create a drain, a trench, and then line it with stone. Particularly big coarse stone. That's really the only way to stop it.
We've seen some of that on our roads already.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what you do on a road. The same idea.
Great. Any other comments on that trail or questions? Okay, and then you haven't had a chance to, Yeah.
It's too wet, and it's really, I need to wait for the snow.
Yeah.
To melt, so I haven't been yet, but I can look at it and come again.
yeah, when do you,
Awesome.
so Baptist Hill and Falls Hill, when do you think is an appropriate time to check it out? May?
Well, I mean, before that even, it's
Okay.
really nice to see it when it's more the roads. It's
Yeah.
not really the trails, like I
Right.
can not destroy them, so it's when do the roads dry out? May,
Yeah,
you know, it depends. Maybe if it's really cold,
Yeah.
you know, but
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see. Falls Hill, especially early on, to see where there's
Yeah.
a stream. I don't know if it disappears at some point, but on the very top.
Oh, like,
Yeah, there's a pretty steady stream.
And the
at
two
top. Yeah,
are,
the top.
are Balls Hill and which one?
Falls Hill.
Falls Hill,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
that's close to your place.
Yeah. That's the sharp corner.
Yes,
Right.
Yes,
and
I
then
certainly know it.
Baptist Hill,
Yeah, right.
also. That gets, yeah, steeper.
Alright, yeah. Is this monthly, bi-monthly?
So we usually do it monthly. I'll be traveling next month, for the second Thursday. Unless we want to do the third Thursday on the 17th.
I'll try to look at it.
I don't remember when school break is, but.
Yeah.
Whenever, if sure.
All right, so I'll look at both of those and I can update, I think Orchard Hill's fine, but I'll update the document on the crossroad as well.
Okay, great. Is there any reason for him to look at the town forest or Strawberry Hill? Those are the other trails we have access to. Maybe.
I can't see any need for Strawberry Hill.
Probably not, well. We know we gotta deal with the driveway up to Wikipedia Woods. But that, we won't.
Yeah.
We won't have you do that, but then maybe the Drew lot at some point to look at that, because it can be pretty wet in there too, and steep.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I mean,
Though
even
I
if it's
feel like they
outside of
put some good
anything,
water bars in.
I live in town, so I'd be glad to look at all of it. Just
Can
to
I
know.
speak?
Yeah,
Yeah, their water bars are in there.
Yeah.
And then it works
super
out.
size.
I don't think there's much more you can do, but where the logging road is.
Yeah.
Follow that.
Yeah.
On the very top where it goes along the rim is all grown up in the brush.
Yeah.
So it's a little ticky.
Yeah.
But the path that he has laid out, there's also a little hump you can utilize as a bypass too. So additional.
Yeah.
Some other time Kevin and I can work on it.
When you're bored and you wanna walk in the
Oh,
woods.
yeah. I don't get that very much. My line of work.
2 kids.
Right. Well, we cruise through the agenda. Anything else to add? So you'll,
Yeah, I'll resend them,
Yeah.
update the numbers.
Yeah.
You know, which might have, a lot of this material might have changed too.
Just remember with the forest, the town forest.
Yeah.
With MOUs.
yes,
that
exactly,
The forest committee.
Yeah.
Has adopted.
absolutely. Yeah, we haven't officially, I don't think we have an official trail. At the Drew lot, at this stage. We don't have a trail steward either, so
Well,
we want to at least,
Elise,
I think she's shown interest, she hasn't been officially appointed. So, you've been appointed to the Wikipedia Woods. We need to add it to the website.
Now,
I think you guys have walked it more recently, but I know, those water bars, needed some maintenance. On the Drew lot.
yeah, my impression always is after a logging is to let it settle before we really tramp on it.
Oh, right,
But we've had 1 year and then go back and look at everything. He put some large water bars.
he did,
in. So it dried
Yeah, they
out
were-
nicely last year. to walk
Sizable,
around.
I think the issue we've run into elsewhere is that they fill in with leaves and stuff. So they
Yeah,
just
take a look at it.
require
When it dries
generally
out.
hand maintenance, but if we keep up with it.
And we need to make signs so people don't walk out on the road that has actually a stone wall and they come out in Simon's backyard. You won't like that.
now, Elise is not with us tonight, right?
no,
Okay, so that would make tonight a good night to officially designate.
Are you on your second glass?
I've learned that I should put that in the agenda. 'Cause, yeah, so, we'll put that in the agenda for the next meeting. But good idea, Kevin.
I have a question about next meeting possibilities to talk about. I'm not even sure if, I brought this up last time I was here, but not sure if this is even the appropriate place to talk about it. It is trails, but it's also back roads and it's the overland pilgrimage truck thing. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so it's like, they go everywhere. You can get the map. Like, and it's like, while they're not going necessarily on a lot of these smaller trails, they're not going on Moody and they're not going anything like that. They're like ripping up Kelsey Mountain Road. They're like, which is used by all sorts of people, walkers, horse, bikes. And so I don't know who gave them permission to just rip up all over Tunbridge, but I think as a committee, we kind of owe it to the town to find that out.
Well, those are Kelsey Mountain, that's class 4 road. Open
Yes,
to
yes,
traffic.
yeah, but what's
Yeah.
not open to traffic is Goodwin Hill Road, where I live. And they're ripping up that.
What's not open?
Goodwin Hill Road,
Oh.
yeah.
uh-huh.
So it's like they're definitely going places that are not just open class
Oh.
4.
Mhm.
Isn't Goodwin Hill class 3?
I don't know what the top of Goodwin Hill is.
Only,
top.
only to the top.
Only to the top, and then it continues all the way to the top of the hill, which is where,
Class.
I don't think so. Mm-mm.
No, I think it stops right around where Tom Wells is cut off.
Yeah,
Is there
yeah.
at the top, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, where there used to be the camp right there that burned down, but from there you could still go to the left and go all the way up to the top field. Where some people from Connecticut have property up there, so they technically can drive up there, but like, it's not
So
easy
it's
to do.
stressed, like you're on someone else's land,
Yeah,
so it's not a right of way.
no. I mean, we have to do some more research. Like, I don't actually, that's what I was want to talk about, because if it's happening there, I heard other people talking about being like, what the hell's going on? And so it just might be something to look into, to be like, you probably can't be here. Kelsey Mountain Road is an example that they probably can, but there's this,
I
other
guess the
things.
town could put a dead end road sign,
Some, I don't know, something.
right?
Mm.
At a minimum.
Yeah.
I think that'd be good.
So when they first started, they moved over to Henderson's Hideaway.
Yep.
Because one of the towns over on the other side of the hill, and I can't remember which one, told us they didn't want them using their class 4s anymore. So we might want to look into what they did and how they did it.
I mean,
So they
ripped it
moved
up.
over here, and I actually found it kind of hard to get their map upcoming unless you're part of the group. You have to be part of the group, and then they'll let you in, which means you pay the fee to get in. Then
Mhm.
they'll let you have the map
Mhm,
or whatever you're doing. Until then, you don't really have it. But John O'Brien
mhm.
waved them down the first year to stop them from going on Orchard, which would have settled a lot of stuff if they had.
Yeah.
That would have made a mess and ended all discussion.
Yeah, no kidding. But it is crazy. I mean, last year I was going on a bike ride up Kelsey Mountain after they were going through there, and I like the culvert was destroyed. Like, it was gnarly. So I don't know.
Does it have to go on the agenda with the select board?
I have
To
no idea.
request that-
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up.
I would think it should. I think it got brought up before because these things are brought up there. It affects our roads. They
Yeah.
have a right to be on it. I don't know how how that town did that with it. We don't want you using our.
So there was a draft class 4 road policy that I think I don't know if it was the Planning Commission or the Conservation Commission put together. That
Planning.
one of the things it required was permission for any kind of organized events using the class 4 roads. But I don't think anything ever happened. I think it just is sitting there. I don't think the select board ever took it up or approved it. So I don't know if maybe that's something that should be dusted off and re-examined. The other thing, speaking of signage, I saw a sign that it was at the end of Stonehouse Road, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but it basically said the town road ends here, private beyond or something like that. I don't know if the town put it there or one of the landowners put it there or what, but
Landowners.
okay. Yeah, something like that might work at some of these dead end town roads, because there are a bunch of them.
Off by Blackhawks.
So I gotta look at the notes, feel like I asked the planning commission to put the class 4 draft forward. And there was something else that we had asked them to look at. We didn't know, the select board was gonna make a decision on e-bikes. We didn't want to cover that at this committee level. We felt that was a select board issue. I think that was last year.
Because this past summer, I certainly saw a number of quite large organized groups going on the class 4 roads. 20, 30 trucks.
I definitely had like 13 trucks at a time, just like going up Goodwin Hill. And I was like, wow.
I think they have close to just under 200 that are down
Yes.
at Henderson's Hideaway. They
Yeah.
try to send them out in small groups, so you don't feel like you got an army
That's-
invading.
Yeah, but out of
But it's
200,
still-
13's a small
Yeah,
group.
they'll
you know?
keep coming through.
Yeah.
I feel like we
I- I get a real kick out of them on this class 4 road. It's like they're all locked into 4-wheel drive low. They're all, you know, looking like they're on safari with the big racks on top and everything. And I'm thinking, you know, what is this? You know, I mean, it's aside from the destructiveness, it's amusing to see this procession. You know, you just expect to, you know, that, or I wonder if they expect they're going to see lions and tigers out the window.
They all Connecticut and New Jersey plates. They're just really out there.
Great for beer sales in South Royalton.
There you go.
So my opinion, the select board can correct me. I'm sure they'd love for us to tackle some of these things.
Yeah.
I think let's, we got enough to handle with the
Yeah.
trails.
Sure.
When we get bored of that, maybe we can take on more.
Okay.
So. In my opinion, probably
Fair, yeah,
if
that's
anyone feels otherwise, but.
As Peter noted previously, that was the planning commission dealing with the 4-class road policy.
okay.
And there is a draft of that was not followed through on.
All right, yeah, I'll email them then and be like, what's up?
I think that's still posted on the trails page.
Great.
Right. Yeah, I think we've covered the agenda. We're almost out of time. I think we're gonna shoot for an April meeting. Is it important? Are there things to talk about? Sure there will be.
Probably.
We'll look for 4/17 for now and then cancel if we don't have anything to cover. So, all right. Thank you, Sean, for coming.
Yeah, thank you,
Appreciate
Sean.
it. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you
We'll see you
indeed.
now.
So we'll see you all on 420.
Yeah. He's on the 3rd class.
Completely honest, walked up to maybe